Back to the Tracy Take. I am Tyler here with my brother and co-host Ryan. We are going to be going over our week 4 predictions, so then you know exactly who you should or probably honestly should not bet on to win. And so, but before we get into that, thanks for joining us tonight, and subscribe to the channel if you have not already. Also share this video and like this video, and show it to your friends and family so we can keep growing our community. We are also on Twitter as well. If we just started that, and so we will be posting on there, and maybe save some funny tweets. Also be posting some videos up there. We you can see our Twitter handle below. And now, kind of with that being said, Ryan, how's it going tonight?
It's going good. It's been a busy day.
Yep.
Worked, played some tennis. Now I'm snacking on some pineapple.
And we're going to be talking some football. So
I know,
3 weeks into the season, kind of crazy week last week. So definitely tough for us. We struggled. I went 8 for 8 with our picks. We got Sunday night and Monday night off just barely. I would say. I think I don't know. You know what? Actually, let's talk about that game real quick, because the Giants, Cowboys seem okay under Cooper Rush. Their defense is definitely. I don't think people have been talking about their defense enough. I think after that week 1 loss to Tampa Bay, and then everyone was talking about Cooper Rush, and how well he played in week 2. And I thought he played decent last night, but that defense in particular seemed like they played really well.
So right now, the Cowboys are leading the league in sacks, I think, with 13 through 3 games, which is pretty impressive.
I think so, yeah. That's pretty. Yeah, it is pretty impressive.
Their offensive line has also ranked 8th in the NFL through the first 3 weeks. So, definition of winning in the trenches, I would say. And to me, I think that's been the biggest thing, that they've been able to keep Cooper Rush clean, allow him to sit back there and be comfortable. And I will say they probably haven't faced. Granted, the Bucs are a really good pass rushing team, but the Bengals are a really good run stuffing team. They don't have the greatest pass rush. And then the Giants, I know they just drafted Kayvon Thibodeau. Azeez Ojulari had 8.5 sacks last year, which was his rookie season. Still developing their pass rush. It's on the right track. It's just not fully there yet. And so I think that has definitely helped. But again, I think that they're doing all right. CD Lamb had another big game, and that really helps. So yeah,
especially on the road too, in New York. And so in New York, I still think there are some good bright spots, but definitely seemed like they took a step back, but just like a lot of teams did, in week 3. That was what we talked about yesterday on the show. Is it was a regressing towards the mean kind of week. If you were below the mean, you kind of played closer up to the middle. If you were above it, we saw a lot of teams kind of not play that well. So started to come down. But week 4, still very early on in the season, going to be the first game in October. And so we already talked about the Thursday night game in our last episode, and we're going to have that video coming out tomorrow morning on our predictions. But so we won't go too deep into that. But so let's start out here. We do have our first London game. That's going to be the first one we talk about here. It's going to be Minnesota Vikings at the New Orleans Saints. So I'll be completely honest. When I was looking at this, it's going back and forth. I can see either team winning, but Minnesota definitely struggled in Philadelphia, and obviously Philadelphia's top 5 team in the league. But when I look at how Philadelphia plays football, it does kind of remind me a little bit about how New Orleans is going about playing football. Trying to run first, have a run option type play. You'd have Alvin Kamara. He's still one of the better backs in the league. Jameis Winston's nowhere near as good a thrower as I can't let him say that, as Jalen Hurts, but still that type of play. Michael Thomas is their A.J. Brown. Chris Olave has been playing really well. He started to have a breakout game last week. Actually, not started. I think he did. I think he had over 150 receiving yards or something like that. He had a great game against the Panthers. And I think that they just match up well against the Vikings. As I said, I think the Vikings, personnel-wise, I think are the better team. But on the road in London, I think the Saints match up well. And also, they still have one of the better defenses in the league. They're going to be able to get after Kirk Cousins. Doesn't look like Dalvin Kirk potentially could not be playing in this game either with a hurt shoulder. And they do have a good secondary as well. So I'm going to lean towards the Saints as of right now. What are some of your thoughts on that game?
So I'm leaning towards Minnesota. London games are always a crapshoot because you got a lot of travel getting over there. They have 1 or 2 practices over there. They play and then they fly home, right? So there's a lot more X factors that kind of go into those games. And to me, usually those games are low scoring. Whoever makes the bigger plays usually wins. Sorry. The team that makes the most explosive play usually wins. Like if a team gets a long touchdown, that usually sets them up pretty well. And so for me, I think Minnesota just has a better roster. I trust Kirk Cousins and Justin Jefferson and Adam Thielen, for that matter, way more than I trust Jameis Winston, Michael Thomas, and Chris Olave. I have zero faith that Marshawn Lattimore will be able to cover Justin Jefferson because, frankly, I don't think anybody has really been able to cover Justin Jefferson this year. And the Saints
Darius Slay.
Well, yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, well, but I think
it was still a good matchup. Like
it was still a good matchup, but I would say if you just look at the stats, Darius Slay had a game. But this is where for me, and that's what I said. Like I agree with you on those points. The thing for me though is the Saints, especially their interior, I think can get after the quarterback. And that Vikings, when shown pressure, they have struggled, and even they struggled with that a little bit this past week against the Lions. Aiden Hutchinson was able to get after him as well, and so in that defensive front with Detroit. So, and like Vikings have all the weapons, and so this is one I just believe the Saints. I'm just going to stick with my hunch on this, but that could it's Tuesday. That could definitely change by then by Sunday morning.
Yeah, no. I mean, this is a close game. I just think Minnesota is the better team here. So
no, that's fair.
We'll see. Up next, I think this might be the easiest game to pick this week. No offense.
No, none taken.
Closely followed by my team's game, but we'll get to that a little bit later.
Yeah.
But Cleveland is visiting Atlanta, and I mean, I the way Cleveland looked last week, they played well in the trenches. They really showed to be able to throw the ball with Jacoby Brissett. And I just think they're a much better team than the Atlanta Falcons. You guys do have a bit of a break. I don't think Myles Garrett's going to play.
Oh, that is true. I didn't think about that. I saw he got into a car accident. Happy that he's doing well and that he's out of the hospital. But yeah, for me, I just look at. That's a good point. That's another factor to think about. This is going to be a higher scoring game. I think the Falcons are going to be able to put up some points. Ironically, actually,
really good.
You have the 2 leading rushers in the league right now going up this game, Nick Chubb and Cordell Patterson. They're both over 300 yards and playing well. I need to check to see how Saquon Barkley did. I don't think he might have surpassed 300 this after Monday night. But that being said, though, I think it's going to be a good game, but I still think the Browns, for me, it's just going to be their defense. I think the Browns defense is going to be able to make more stops than the Falcons offenses. The Falcons, like, and even they shouldn't have been close in the Rams game. And I just don't think they're going to be able to match up, be able to stop Amari Cooper and Nick Chubb and Kareem Hunt. And it seemed like Jacoby Brissett started to develop a very strong connection with David Njoku as well. So that's just a lot of weapons for this Falcons defense. It's still growing. I think it'll be a good game, but I just think the Browns I believe the Browns will win this game on the road. And so, it's not too much to talk about. In my mind, that like, or there's not too much to question, essentially. On this one.
Saquon
this is
Barkley's at 317 yards.
Okay, so now I think Cordell Patterson was at 302 and Nick Chubb's at like 345.
Yeah, something like that.
Okay, so the first and the third now. So you have the first and the third running backs going in this game. So it will be close, but Yeah, I'm just gonna this is one of those. I think it's like this is just the safe pick and the smart pick is Cleveland. If Atlanta can somehow make an upset, then I'd be happy. But at the same time, Cleveland's the best pick here.
Yeah, no. I agree. So, and then another NFC East matchup. We have the Washington football team traveling to Dallas to take on the Cowboys. Cooper Rush and the Cowboys. I think we're both in agreement on this one as well. I think Dallas looked really good. Not really good, but Dallas looked good.
Well, yeah, and another thing also on top of that as well is then also how bad Washington looks. Carson Wentz got sacked 9 times. I think that Micah Parsons is going to have a game against the Commanders.
So I did get the stats on that. We talked about that yesterday in our Thursday night preview as a like an aside out of nowhere. They had 36 pressures. God, 36 quarterback pressures.
That is insane. That's insane. I mean, to me, that's I mean, 36 pressures. I mean, how many passes did he have?
43.
So there were 7. There were 7 of Carson Wentz's throws where he like felt perfectly fine. If that stat is correct.
Yeah. If that stat is correct, because that was how many pressures did they have? And I saw 36 is like a little note that popped up. So that's nuts. Yeah, I couldn't imagine. That's terrible.
But yes, for me with the Dallas pick, it's like, well, they just look into a groove now under Cooper Rush. I think one of the things too with Cooper Rush as well with Dallas, and we talked a little bit about, but I think it simplifies the game for them. And so I know we're huge fans of Mike McCarthy, as he said that facetiously, hoping that everyone understood that. I think it makes the play calling. Especially then for Kellen Moore, who I like. I think he is a good player. I think it simplifies everything because you can't. It simplifies everything, and then you have a veteran QB who's not going to make too many mistakes. You know, he knows his role. And so now if that offensive line keeps producing, that defense keeps just coming after the quarterback, and that seems like that's been a huge struggle for Washington. I need to see how many times Carson Wentz has been sacked. Because I know he got sacked a decent bit, I believe, against their Jacksonville game as well in week 1. So, Dallas, that's the play there. That's absolutely the play there.
Yeah. And then another one we're also in agreement on is the Seattle versus at Detroit game. Man, Detroit looks like they can just flat out play.
That offense looks good. That offense looks really. I think they're going to need a little bit of help in the secondary. But I mean, imagine though when some Jameson Williams gets healthy and then he's on that team.
Oh yeah,
that's going to be crazy. One thing to look out for. It looks like DeAndre Swift might have to take a little bit of time off, but they still have Jamal Williams, who is a great number 2 running back. I think he'll be able to fit right into that role. But Jared Goff is having a good year. Amon-Ra St. Brown is playing really well. So and then also Seattle sucks. I mean, Atlanta beat them. Seattle could not stop the Falcons' offense. They were really struggling. And this Detroit offense is way better than Atlanta. It is significantly better than Atlanta.
Oh, yeah. Oh. So that's that for me. Detroit just has too much talent. Even if you go like player for player, Detroit, Aiden Hutchinson, like you said, Amon-Ra St. Brown. Even if DeAndre Swift is out, Jamal Williams, I think, could be a starting caliber running back elsewhere. So I think Detroit's the easy pick there. So
yeah, I agree with that. So Detroit be 2-2, and honestly should be if they win, but. Fought well against Minnesota. I think that they're going to keep contending with Minnesota, but I think they're going to beat Chicago both times they play. I think that they can steal a game against Green Bay because I think they can make that game into a shootout, and I think that they can win that game against Green Bay if it turns into a shootout, which I never thought I'd ever say, especially with Aaron Rodgers being there. So that Detroit team, definitely looking forward to seeing them keep progressing because last year they would – for how awful they were, they were fun to watch because they seemed like they were having a great time playing, and they were a young team. and it was like kind of like the island of misfit toys. And you were just kind of rooting for them. And now it seems like all those toys have found an owner and are starting to play really well together. So definitely looking forward to seeing how they keep growing here. So what is the next game up here? The Nashville, Tennessee Titans versus the Indianapolis Colts. This is one because both teams got the first win, but one was against a significantly better team, and that was the Colts. Colts technically are up half a game against Tennessee right now in the standings, but not too concerned about that. For me, the difference in the game for me is I think there's a little bit better talent overall on the Colts side than there is on the Tennessee side. Obviously, Tennessee is Derrick Henry. And one thing with the Colts, if they can get into a rhythm passing the ball, they have more effective weapons, I feel like, than the Titans do. And I'm still not convinced that the Titans are going to be able to effectively throw the ball through the air. They played a weak Raiders pass defense this last week, and the Raiders do have an explosive offense, but they seem like they're still struggling and trying to figure out some kinks as well. And this Colts defense is better. The Colts offensive line on paper is better. The Colts running game is on par, if not better, than the Titans, and that's even including Derrick Henry. So for me, I was just leaning towards the Colts. Also, another thing as well, and this is going to be a consistent trend for me, I think, with some of my picks, but I have Indianapolis winning the division preseason. And so, and I had that with the intention of them beating out Tennessee. Jacksonville potentially could also win the division. We'll get to them here in a second. But I'm just going to lean towards the Colts on this one, especially for right now.
Yeah, no, I am too, for a lot of the reasons you said. But also too, the potential for the Indianapolis Colts is so much higher, and we got a glimpse of what that could be against Kansas City this past week. And I just think if they can continue to improve and build on that, and it wasn't just a fluke game, this game really shouldn't be very close.
Yeah,
because Tennessee's offensive line not very good, especially after Taylor Lewan is out. Their defensive line took a big hit with Harold Landry out. Their secondary is very young and inexperienced. So, with the exception of Kevin Byard. So,
well, and another thing too is DeForest Buckner and Shaquille Leonard have both been out on that Colts defense, and so we need to see like when they come back, because when they come back, that will be a huge upgrade for both of those teams. And so we would need to see. Let me see. Actually, I even think DeForest Buckner might have played this past weekend. I need to go and double check here. But that'll be huge for the Colts if they are able to play. But even then, with all the injuries, I still think the Colts are a little bit of a better team, just personnel-wise. But hey, you know what? We said that a bunch last year, and the Titans were the number 1 overall seed. So, and they beat the Colts both times. So, who knows? Kind of watch and see. But I believe the Colts will win. I think Tennessee is really regressing. I think their passing game was against. It shouldn't be too much to write home about the performance last week against the Raiders, because that Raiders team wasn't. The defense wasn't that good last year, and it's not good this year. So
it's not.
Yeah. But all right, then moving on to the next game as well. Still in the early games, the Chicago Bears at the New York Giants. Who do you think is going to be winning this one?
So I have the Giants right now. This is, to me, a pick'em game. I went with the home team. Also, the Giants finally might have found something in the run game with Saquon Barkley and actually even Daniel Jones scrambling. And the Bears have really kind of struggled against teams with solid power run games. And so I think that the Giants match up really well with Saquon Barkley. That offensive line is kind of coming around to it. And I think that the Giants offense is actually starting to really buy in to this Brian Dabble scheme. And I like the Giants here for that reason. I think they'll be able to run at will almost.
So I also have the Giants going here, but for me, it's also kind of more a pick against the Bears. I think the Bears, their offense is not scary at all, and the Giants have a relatively, I would say, average to above average defense. I think that they're going to be able to play really well. Neither team really has too many receiving weapons that scare me, and so
especially now Sterling Shepard's out.
Yeah. And I agree. So I think Saquon Barkley is going to be the best player on the field. I don't think the Bears defense will be able. They shouldn't really be able to stop him. It's not that great, and they haven't really been performing that well. And Justin Fields and that offense, they just not seem like they're able to throw the ball through the air. So, and I need to double check. I know David Montgomery got hurt last week. We'll need to see if he's able to play this week as well. But that would be a huge loss. Khalil Herbert would be able to come in and be their running back one for the week, but it drops off severely after that. So we'll just have to see. But yeah, I'm leaning towards the home team on this one. I believe the Giants will win and kind of continue that potential wild card push that I was talking about last night. Just because it seems like there's some talent there, and within a weaker NFC, I think they can maybe make a run.
Yeah, no, I agree. After that one is Jacksonville versus Philadelphia. So,
who would have thought? Who would have thought? Because for me, when picking this game, I had to go with Philadelphia. But who would have thought that at this point in the season we actually would have to think about this game?
Yeah. Jacksonville looks good. That offense looks good. This is also another storyline that I don't think a lot of people are talking about. This is Doug Peterson's return to Philadelphia. After winning a Super Bowl there and then eventually getting fired a couple years later. So this is kind of a big game, I think, for Jacksonville. And to me, I think Philadelphia should be the favorite, and I have them picked here. But this might be the game that I'm most likely to switch because I think Jacksonville's approach to things with James Robinson, Marvin Jones has been having a really good season for himself. Christian Kirk as well. I just think that they match up shot for shot with Philadelphia fairly well. I also don't think Philadelphia will be able to run the balls easy against Jacksonville because they've had a pretty good run defense so far.
Yeah, and they have been able to get after the quarterback. This is one of those. Philadelphia just looks so balanced though. Yeah. Even on both sides of the ball, I think they're going to be able to get after Trevor Lawrence. I think that if they stop the run for one play, then they're going to be able to throw it to A.J. Brown or Devontae Smith or Dallas Goedert, Quez Watkins, whoever, And so this is just a hot hand fallacy. Never thought I'd have to say this, but yeah, I'm just going with Philadelphia because they've been shown that they've been a little bit of the better team. But man, would I love to see Jacksonville win? I think that would be really cool. A huge turnaround from last year. If they're able to win this game, really put them on the map. And then think about that. Let's throw out a hypothetical. If Jacksonville does win this game. We talked a little bit about Miami being like a potential wild card. They've been close the past couple of years. No one in their right mind would have thought that Jacksonville would be a contender. And if they win this game, I mean, then I look at how the Colts are playing, look at how the Titans are playing, and it's like Jacksonville seems they kicked the tar out of the Colts. Now the Colts had some injured players, yes, but still,
Yeah, but honestly, that game wasn't even close.
It wasn't close, and honestly, I think that they would beat Tennessee. I think that they had better receiving weapons. I think that their defense is better. So, and I think that now, anyways, if Jacksonville, Tennessee was playing, I definitely have to think about it. But if they were to pull off the upset here at Philly, that would open up a lot of eyes, and then it would just only expand the potential teams that could make the playoff in the AFC.
And we're also, this is week 4. To me, we have a month of football in. I think this week and next week, I think we're going to find out a lot about who teams really are. Because we're not that we're near midseason yet, but teams are going to be starting to hit that groove. And so I think it's really important for teams to start to play well and get on win streaks, because it's a lot easier to be ahead than to have to catch up. So
yeah, well, and that's what I was saying last night too about if the Giants were to win and then they would go to 3-0, is then you're just looking at just the amount of games left, and then even if they go 500 the rest of the way, or well, I guess technically go that they would win and lose every single other game, then that would put them at 10-7, and that would have been a wild card spot last year in the NFC. So you're absolutely right. Like winning these games now, that just helps ensure obviously your playoff percentage here in the future. So, but then also at the same time, though, I mentioned this about the Colts as well last night. I totally forgot that they went 1-4 last year.
Yeah,
and should have made the playoffs.
So
it's still a long season, but it's like these moments now, though. You're absolutely right. So I think another thing too, going back to that point, is we're going to see which teams have depth. Because, every team, people get banged up, especially early on in the season. Like, they got to take a week off. And if you're going to take a week off, you got to do it. Better do it now than in week 15, when you really need to win that game. And see how the backup players do if they're able to rotate out and see if some guys get some veteran experience.
Yeah. No. I 100% agree. So right now, I'm going with Philadelphia, but I do think that there is a lot of good reasons that Jacksonville could win this game. So,
yep.
Up next is the New York Jets versus the Pittsburgh Steelers. Another one that we agree on. Who do you have winning this one, Tyler?
So I ended up going with the Jets as of now. This is one for me that I could definitely change. Supposedly Zach Wilson's coming back. And what was it that for me it was the Jets statistically seemed just more consistently average, while the Steelers have really struggled to move the ball offensively. Really struggled to move. I think they're in the lower tier in rushing yards per game, passing yards per game, and so just total yards per game also. And I think a lot of that has to do with their offensive line. And I just think that they're just going to really struggle to put points up on the board. While the Jets, and I even looked, they lost 27-12 against the Bengals this past week, but they had 4 turnovers, and several of those turnovers. Well, one of the picks was at the end of the game, so it's kind of say what you will about that. But then several of the other turnovers were on drives. Like they were moving the ball. They were in Cincinnati territory. So if a couple plays go a different way, that's a much closer game. And I think the Jets do still have some more explosive talent. Garrett Wilson, he was able to come back into the game last week and put up another good game. For me, I'm just leaning towards the Jets. I just don't trust that Pittsburgh offense. I feel like if the Jets can get to, if they can get to 21 points, which I think is very possible, I think they win that game.
Yeah. So that was my big thing is the Steelers, I think, have the weapons to be a really good team. Getting the ball to those weapons has been a problem for them throughout the first 3 games.
Yeah.
So until I see it, I'm pretty much going to pick against them because they're going to be relying on a defensive heavy scheme without their best defensive player to win games. But to me, the Jets, they have an elite group of weapons. Garrett Wilson, Elijah Moore, Corey Davis are 3 like really, really good wide receivers. And I don't think a lot of people are talking about that receiving room quite yet. But in a year or 2, I think it's going to be a very, very dangerous group. And if
then
Zach Wilson coming back.
Well, I was going to say, and then you do have the running back tandem of Breece Hall and Michael Carter, a solid young running back room as well. And so, sorry, you're going to mention Zach Wilson.
So I was going to say, and Zach Wilson coming back, I have mixed feelings about that. At one viewpoint, I think it's great they're getting their starting quarterback back. But at another viewpoint, you're like, well, he's coming in fresh. This is basically his week 1. So that to me is a little I don't want to say concerning, but it's just something to kind of keep an eye on, that like he might have a few mistakes, especially the Pittsburgh secondary is fairly turnover happy, especially with Minkah Fitzpatrick back there. So you can't really give him an opportunity to make a play, or else he will. Like he'll make the play. So
yeah, no, it can definitely go both ways, and it's just this one's definitely tough. These are the two teams I'm feeling very confident. We're talking about playoff hopes. These are two teams for me. I'm fairly confident that will not be in the playoff picture at all. This is the game. To me, I look at this game as it's like who's going to be picking before who in the next draft, because the Jets are on their way up and the Steelers are on their way down. But I agree with you though about the Steelers' potential is like pound for pound. If it's skill players wise, I think you can put them up against near every anybody.
No, they have a great group.
And but that offensive line is just atrocious. They lost TJ Watt, which is a huge piece to lose. I just think I think it's going to be tough for them. I think the Jets. I think that they just have a little bit better outlook moving forward.
Yeah, no. I 100% agree. So that is one that could change. Up next, this is our first disagreement, I think, in a little while.
In a little while, yeah.
But Buffalo is traveling to Baltimore. This is going to be a high-scoring game. It's going to be hard to bet the winner, but you could definitely bet the over on this one.
Well, so I disagree. I think it's going to be pretty easy to bet the winner. I'm going with the Bills.
Oh, wow.
Like, okay. I'm going with the Bills. They had over 500 yards against the Dolphins defense, who was actually a solid defense, and they were able to keep that offense in check. But the Ravens defense is not the Dolphins defense, especially in the secondary. I think that I think Josh Allen's going to have another 400-yard game. I think Stephon Diggs, Gabriel Davis, Isaiah McKenzie are just going to tear it up. For me, I agree. I think it's going to be a high-scoring game. But another thing as well, though, is the Buffalo defense is really good. And they were short a couple players on secondary, and they still were able to keep that Miami offense in check. And only I think they only had 37 offensive plays on the Miami offense, and just over 220 yards or something like that of total yards in the game. So I think they're going to be able to keep them in check. The Ravens do not have the receiver weapons like how Miami does. They're going to be much more run heavy. And if there's the best part of the defense is going to be Buffalo's front defensive line. So I think they're going to be able to stop them. I don't think that they are going to be able to have the type of offensive game that the Ravens are used to having. And on top of that, their defenses are going to be able to stop that Buffalo offense.
So I actually have Baltimore winning this game. This offense, I think, is extremely underrated. Lamar Jackson is playing at a ridiculous level at the moment. And he, for the past 2 weeks especially, has looked near unstoppable. In the Miami game, Miami was a little opportunistic. They got, I think, a fumble that canceled out one of the drives in the second half. And then also, too, I think the Ravens got really conservative. But for me, I think the Bills' defense is banged up. They're missing Ed Oliver. I think they're missing almost all four starters in that secondary. And granted, if some of the members of the secondary come back, I could possibly change that pick. But Devin Duvernay looked good the last couple of weeks. Rashad Bateman has looked really good, as well as Mark Andrews is, to me, the best tight end in the league as far as being able to block, run routes, and catch. I would probably have him on my team over Travis Kelce at this moment.
Well, part of that too. Well, that's a totally different conversation. But Mark Andrews is top 2 tight end in the league right now, between him and Travis Kelce, and so and it's nothing. I just think that Baltimore is just it's just a step behind Buffalo. I think Buffalo especially with how the way the game ended last week. I think they're going to come out and I just don't think Baltimore's going to be able to keep up with Buffalo. So,
yeah, I think it's going to be a really close game. I just watching them the past couple weeks, watching Baltimore has been crazy to look at. So I think it's going to be a really interesting game. And that's a 1:00 game, isn't it? Or is that a 4:25?
Yeah, no, it's a 1:00 game.
Okay, that's the 1:00 game I'm looking forward to the most.
I'm going to get a good game here in Nashville with Tennessee at Indianapolis, but that's the marquee matchup, I would say. Yeah, or Jacksonville, Philadelphia. I would say those two games of the early round games. Even though I think Chargers Houston's an afternoon game.
Yeah, there's 4:25 games this week.
Yeah, 4 o'clock. That's one of them. But of the early games, that's probably going to be the best one. I think it's going to be a high scoring game. I just think that they're going to be able to burn them. And so, one thing though, I will say that the Bills won't be able to do, and this will definitely show. And this, if there's going to be an opportunity for Baltimore, is Baltimore can definitely make Buffalo one-dimensional. Buffalo has struggled just on set running plays. And if there's a strength of Baltimore's defense, it's going to be their front seven and stopping the run. But I don't think they can stop the pass. And even then, and you're in this past week, Mac Jones was able to have a good game with that receiving corps passing the ball. And I think that passing offense of New England is well below average. I mean, you might be able to disagree with me, but I just don't think they're up to par.
Like it is average.
It is as average as it can get. And so they're talking about average there. And then I know they just beat Buffalo, but I think maybe like teams can have an off week. But I think the Buffalo offense is more explosive than Miami's offense. And we saw what Miami was able to do in a half against Baltimore. So I just think, just from start to beginning, I think Buffalo is just going to be able to outpace them, and Baltimore won't be able to keep up.
Yeah, no, I think that definitely could happen. I think Baltimore will be able to put that defense in a blender. And I don't know. I think that's a really interesting matchup. So I'm excited to watch that one.
That's going to be good.
Oh, yeah. Up next, we have the Los Angeles Chargers traveling to Houston to take on the Texans. Los Angeles Chargers are pretty banged up at the moment. A lot of injuries.
That's what. So, like, there's a lot of games that I could definitely consider changing, but I think probably say with my first pick. But you mentioned, like, if there's a game that you were going to pick, like, for the upset, this to me might be one of them. Only just not just. I mean, I don't think Houston's one of the weaker teams in the league. They are one of the weaker teams in the league. But I still think that they play decent football. I just think the talent's not there. And if the Chargers are all banged up, let's say if Herbert maybe isn't able to make it, and they say like, hey, no, let's have you sit 1 week and not try play through this pain. This potentially could be an upset opportunity, but it's not just that though. Keenan Allen's still out. They lost Rashawn Slater, and if Corey Linsley is still out, that offensive line is going to be decimated. Then also on the defensive side of the ball, J.C. Jackson. And there was another Joey Bosa as well, or is it Nick Bosa? Joey Bosa. We'll have to see if he plays. Yeah. So I just named a bunch of studs, like a lot of studs on the Chargers team that's banged up. That's going to play a big impact on that game. But I also think it goes to show how much weaker Houston is. The fact that we're still going with the Chargers.
For this to be a close game. Yeah. No, this is an interesting one. Houston has played 3 really close games so far, so I don't necessarily envision it being a blowout. But I don't necessarily envision it being very close, like at the same time. Like I think it's probably like a 1 touchdown, 10-point game.
Well, has Houston, I'm trying to think. So they gave up 20 points to the Colts, gave up 23 to the Bears. Who do they play in between?
Denver, they gave up 16, I think. I think that was like a 16-14 or something.
Yeah. So, I mean, I would need to take a little bit deeper look at if how much
they
of
play
that
a lot
is
of ugly games. Like,
well, and it's funny. It's you look at those three teams, and on paper, Denver's offense should be great, but those three teams' offenses are not
that great.
well.
Yeah.
The Colts' offense should be really good because of how well they can run the ball, but in Week 1, they were not playing well.
No.
Denver's offense should be good, did not play well. Bears offense sucks. So that actually might be a little bit more of a different indicator, and the fact that they gave up 23 points, and had an opportunity to win that game actually though too.
They did,
to be fair. So, but yeah, it's still leaning towards the Chargers. If new information comes out, maybe that can change. But even then, it's tough to bet on Houston, especially in a pick'em league. That just seems difficult.
Oh yeah. The next matchup is Arizona at Carolina. Who do we have winning this one?
So we both have Arizona, and this to me is another one for me personally that I could potentially change. I lean towards Arizona only just because I think that there's more technically, like this offense should be more explosive. I know they don't have DeAndre Hopkins, but man, they've been a disappointment. They are not playing good football. And Carolina's defense is good. It is above average for sure. And so they might be able to keep them in check. But still, Carolina, I think, is struggling to put up points. But the Cardinals' defense also isn't good either. So it's one of those interesting matchups where the Cardinals just in general are not playing well, and the Panthers are not good, but like they found ways to put up points, and they should have beat the Browns in Week 1. Almost beat the Giants. Both games they lost on field goals in the final minute. And then they were able to beat the Saints. But offensively, they only put up 10 points against the Saints, 13 points against the Saints. And the rest were defensive touchdowns. So,
for me, I went with who I think is the best player on the field, and that's Kyler Murray. I think Kyler Murray, he showed it in the Vegas game. In a scrappy game, he can just run around until he finds somebody open and then throw a dart to him. And I think that's probably a lot of what this game is going to be. I envision this being very, very close to what the Raiders game was. I think the Raiders are more talented than the Panthers as well. Hunter Renfrow, Devontae Adams, Darren Waller. That's a much better group than DJ Moore, Robbie Anderson, and then like Ian Thomas or whoever they have at tight end.
Well, but so one thing with that though, and I agree, like the Raiders are not good, or they have not been playing well at least. But Kyler Murray was able to be the most athletic guy on the field against a very weak defense. He's going to be going up against a much better defense than the Raiders. While the Cardinals' defense, which is weaker, probably in comparison, you could probably put in the same category, I would say, as the Raiders. Is going up against a weaker offense, but has some explosiveness, maybe not great. So it's trying to find, for me, it was like trying to think which one's going to be more important, or which teams I think is going to win the matchup. Is the weak defense going to be able to outplay the weak offense, or is the strong offense going to be able to beat out the strong defense, or vice versa? And so that's where this matchup's going to be interesting. The strengths are going to be playing against each other, and the weaknesses of each team are going to be playing against each other. So, but
for me, I don't think Carolina's defense is definitely better, but I don't know how big of an impact it'll have.
Well, so not having DeAndre Hopkins is huge because Marquise Brown is not. He's not he's not the burner number one. Zach Ertz is good but older. They have had the emergence of Greg Dortch, who I think is now on a lot of people's fantasy teams, which can help out. But I'm trying to think, what other receivers do they have at the moment? I
have no idea.
That's what I'm saying. So if you throw DeAndre Hopkins in there, that's a solid 4-receiver set. And I would need to double check, I think, on the rushing, but also Carolina has one of the better rushing defenses. I I would think statistically, I would need to look it up, but better rushing defenses in the league. They were able to keep Saquon Barkley in check. They did give up a lot of yards against Nick Chubb in week 1, but I think a lot of people have given up a lot of yards to Nick Chubb. So take it with a grain of salt. The Cardinals' run game is nowhere near as close to the Browns or the Giants either. So it's going to be very pass heavy and relying on Kyler Murray. So I agree with you. I think Kyler Murray is going to be the best player in the field. I think he's going to be the sole decider of who wins the game. If he comes out, if he comes out and plays really well, I think the Cardinals win.
Yeah. The second to last 4:00 game, or 3:00 if you're on Central Time, is the New England Patriots going to the Green Bay Packers. We both have Green Bay winning this one. To me, this is a pretty easy game to pick, especially since Mac Jones, it sounds like he's not going to play. He has a high ankle sprain. So to me, this is a pretty straightforward one. Green Bay has the better defense and the better running game.
And the better passing offense.
Yeah.
And probably the better kicker.
That's kind of a moot point.
I don't know who either team's kickers are actually. Be fair,
I will say I don't know if I think the Patriots O-line is probably better than the Packers. Therefore, I think their run game might be a little bit better, but it's not. That's not going to be enough, especially when against that defense. So
yeah. So the over under right now in DraftKings is 40.5, and I was even thinking like this is going to be like.
This is going to be like a 17-3 type of game. Like it's
the new Packers brand of football is that this defense is going to smother you, and like I was thinking maybe 2010. Yeah, like I cannot see this being a shootout by any means, especially then if Brian Hoyer is leading. How old's Brian Hoyer now? He's been in the league for he's gonna get hurt. I think he's going to get sacked a lot, and so I hope he doesn't get hurt. I need to just I hope he doesn't get hurt. I just think he's going to get hit a lot. I think he's going to have a long ice bath after the game.
Yeah. I mean, the Patriots O-line has played okay. They had a rough week 1, but since then, I think they've only allowed 4 sacks in 2 games. The Mac Jones injury. Personally, I thought it was actually a late hit by Calais Campbell. He took like a step and a half and then hit Mac Jones. And it was kind of a fluke thing. Like the way that he tackled him, he like hit him and kind of like bounced off and then pulled him down and then like rolled on his front foot. It was kind of a weird thing. And so like that was a complete fluke. Like that was not like Mac Jones getting beat up. So I think the offensive line has performed fairly well.
No, it was more I think to how well the Packers defense has been playing. I think they're going to get after that offensive line and Brian Hoyer, who I'm going to say is slower than Mac Jones.
Oh, he's much. Mac Jones is super a lot more athletic than Brian Hoyer.
Yeah.
But Green Bay, I'm not sure what the over/under is, or not the over/under, the spread.
10 points.
10 points. Actually, that's about right. I feel like that's about right.
I think I'm just going to take the under on that one.
Yeah, I would probably. Yeah. I think that's going to be a lot like the Green Bay Chicago game. I just don't think. That's what Yeah. I don't think it's really going to be anything too fancy.
Yeah.
The last 4:00 game, the Denver traveling to Las Vegas in an AFC West matchup. We both have Denver here. To me, the deciding factor, I think both offenses are sputtering, but Denver's defense is exponentially better than.
I wish I had a lot more confidence in this pick, but it was the X factor because both offenses are not playing up to the potential that they have. Yeah. Even though I think Denver can. I wouldn't be surprised if we start to see them turn the page here in a couple of weeks. But actually, and I agree with you. I think if it's going to happen, it's going to be against this defense. Week 1 against Seattle, they only put up 16 points, but they should have put up 35. 2 fumbles on the 1 yard line, like at back-to-back play. I mean, like so that is right there. Like that's 14 points. That's 30. That's 30 points. And I'm sure they had a bunch of missed opportunities, and where if they were more gelled together. Now, 4 weeks into the season, started to see a little bit of it against San Francisco on that last drive. San Francisco's defense is also really good as well. But yeah, I think this is the week. I wish I had a lot more confidence in this pick. But you know, and another thing too. Well, I take that back. Las Vegas isn't as bad as Los Angeles. But I was gonna say I wouldn't be surprised if there's a bunch of Broncos fans there. But Las Vegas, they own their cities, and also Raiders fans. If you're a Raiders fan, you're always a Raiders fan. How often that team has moved over the past 40 years. So, yeah, I'm going with Denver on this one. I think Las Vegas goes 0-4, and I think people have really started to talk about which quarterback the Raiders are going to be talking about, going to be drafting in the NFL draft next year.
Yeah. I don't know if I'm going to go that far. I just think Derek Carr needs to learn the new system a little bit better, but he hasn't done it yet.
Maybe. No. Oh, I'm not saying I agree with it, but people will definitely be talking about it. Definitely talking about it. I mean, because you got to think too, especially with the way the game's going. You're gonna have C.J. Stroud, Bryce Young. You have the Florida quarterback,
Henderson. I forget his name.
Is it Anthony? Not Anthony Anderson.
Richardson.
Yeah. Then you have the Kentucky kid. I think Lewis.
Levi. No. It's Levis. Will Levis. And then actually, Tanner McKee out of Stanford too is also another one. Although I wasn't as impressed with him. Yeah.
Hey, and you know what? We're both Indiana Hoosier fans, and so their former quarterback Michael Penix. He might. I don't think he's gonna. I'm not saying at all. Michael Penix is going to be a first round. He's going to be the first overall pick, but he has all the attributes that right now. He looks really good now. He is going up against Pac-12 defenses, so take that with a grain of salt. For all of our Pac-12
but 6
fans,
touchdowns a game is 6 touchdowns a game.
6 touchdowns a game is still 6 touchdowns a game, and he's got a strong arm, fast legs. His injury prone, that's the issue.
They have a couple really good receivers, I think, that are coming out, like O'Dunes. I forget some of the names, but they look like they have some talent on that Washington team.
Yeah. So,
but
anyways, though, but Denver's our pick. Derek Carr is not going to be the quarterback next year. You heard it here first.
Kansas City is traveling to Tampa Bay. I have a feeling with the looming hurricane out in the Gulf that this game might be moved to a neutral site, which would suck for Tampa Bay because this is a really big game to have at home. However, we disagree on this one.
Yep.
So I am considering changing my pick. I have Tampa Bay winning, but that is assuming Mike Evans is coming back, assuming one of the other receivers, either Julio Jones or Chris Godwin, is going to come back and play. This is the game of the week for me. This is going to be a really incredible game.
Yeah, for me, I'm leaning towards Kansas City. I think overall the Tampa Bay defense, and I'm the same way. I'm in the same boat as you. I might also change the pick as well. But I was leaning towards Kansas City because if they only have Mike Evans come back, which that's a great addition back. Let's say Chris Godwin can't play. Let's say Julio Jones can't play. I think Kansas City's going to be similar to Buffalo. They work out some kinks from last week against Indianapolis, but then they're able to come back strong on this offense. That receiving corps is they're still getting used to all the receivers in that system as well. I think it's going to be a good game. The Chiefs' defense is good. I would say the Bucs' defense is better, but Chiefs' defense is still good, and it can hold their own against Tampa Bay. Mm-hmm. And I just think that Kansas City is going to win this one as of right now. But we'll see how the week goes on, because this is one for me. just like a lot of these other games, I'll be going back and forth in my head. But you still have Patrick Mahomes. He's played again. He's played in these big time games. We saw how well he played when they were behind against the Chargers, and he was just able to fling the ball 40 yards down the field. He's able to evade pressure. I think the injuries on the offensive line, I think, are going to continue to kind of bite Tampa Bay a little bit consistently. I think they're going to struggle to run the ball a little bit. Kansas City was able to kind of keep Jonathan Taylor in check. I think he only had 70 yards last week. Los Angeles, to my knowledge, and I'm trying to remember the stats, did not run the ball well at all, and they absolutely shut out Arizona running the ball. But they shut out Arizona in pretty much every aspect.
Yeah, I was going to say
week one. Really... So it's like that's not saying much. But I think they're going to be very. I think Tampa Bay is going to really rely on their receivers, and they just don't have that depth right now. Mike Evans is going to come back from his week vacation, unpaid and everything. But I mean, they have a good supporting cast of characters. But that's right. And we saw last week how tough it was for Tampa Bay to generate any kind of offense against a really good defense in Green Bay. And I think Kansas City's close. I think Green Bay also might be a little bit better on defense, but Kansas City still has a solid defense. And so I think I believe they're going to be able to shut them out. I believe Patrick Mahomes is going to be able to get the win, especially if you're right, too, about that with the hurricane coming up. I think that's going to be if it's a neutral site game, I think that helps in favor to Kansas City.
No, 100%. If this game is in Tampa Bay, I really like Tom's ability to manipulate this defense, because this defense is really young. They're athletic and they're young, and frankly, they should have lost to the Chargers. But the Chargers offense is also young. They made one big mistake that I just don't think the Buccaneers are going to make. One of the things that I think the Patriots did and why they were able to beat the Chiefs is power run and run in between the guards. And that's one of the things I think the Buccaneers do fairly well. They did it against the Cowboys, who might have a better defensive line than I think a lot of people are giving them credit for so far this season. And to me, that was what really opened up their offense. I think this is going to be a lower scoring game than games past. However, last time these two teams played in the regulars, I guess last time these two teams played was in 2020 when Patrick Mahomes had Tyreek Hill. And I don't know if you remember that game. It was 24-20. Buccaneers lost in with the last second drive that they got into Kansas City territory. But Patrick Mahomes hit 2 bombs to Tyreek Hill in that game, which amassed 14 of their 24 points. He doesn't have Tyreek Hill anymore. He doesn't really have anything close to Tyreek Hill. And they do have some weapons. They do run more 12 personnel with 2 tight ends. So I think it's a much different offense, but I really think Tampa Bay matches up here. Fast linebackers. Antoine Winfield is a menace in the middle of the field. And their corners are healthier this year than they were in the last 2 years. So I really like Tampa Bay in this matchup if it's in Tampa and they can utilize that home field advantage. But if it's a neutral site, I will really have to reconsider this game. Well,
and I will say also, Tom Brady then beat Patrick Mahomes later that year in the Super Bowl. That was 31-9. So, but and that actually was at home. So
it was.
Technically it wasn't, but it actually was. So. Yeah, and that's a good point too. And you made a lot of good points, a lot of interesting points that I was not considering when making my pick. That's going to be a good game. That's going to be a really good game. That's a great Sunday night game. It seems like they always pick some really good Sunday night games each week. Monday night games as well. It's going to be the Los Angeles Rams versus the San Francisco 49ers. For me, I think we both have the Rams winning this one. So for me, my sole decision on this was the Trent Williams injury from San Francisco with their left tackle. He's one of the best left tackles in the league. And as soon as he went down in the first half, I'm pretty sure it was the first half, San Francisco could not move the ball at all. And of course, Denver did have a really good defense just in general, but they could not move the ball at all. And if he's out this game, which I think he is, I think he's out for a little while. I need to double. More information will come out throughout the week, but I would assume, especially whenever you bring the card out, normally that guy is not playing the next week. And so, I think he walked off on his own power with the cart behind him, but they went straight to the locker room. I just think not having that, I think the Rams defense will be able to get after Jimmy Garoppolo, will be able to stop Deebo Samuel, and I think the Rams will still be able to put up 21, 24 points. I don't think the 49ers will be able to do that.
So I have the Rams winning as well. I'm not really reconsidering this, but I definitely think that there is a path to victory for the 49ers. The Rams don't have Von Miller. They really don't have a premier edge rusher anymore. The only guy that they really have is Aaron Donald on that defensive line that can really hurt you.
Yeah.
Now, Aaron Donald can really hurt you, but he's definitely more in the interior.
Well, and it allows for teams too to be like, okay, well, there's no other threat, then we're definitely going to double team you, and then we'll have someone else beat us.
Yeah,
we're not going to let Aaron Donald beat us. When it was Von Miller, you're right. It's like, well, Von Miller will beat us. So
Von Miller will beat you one-on-one. So you either have to put a running back on that side. You either have to have help on Aaron Donald, but eventually double team Von Miller. So for me, this Rams defense is not scary at all. And to put that in perspective, your Falcons put up 26 points on them. They almost put up 33.
Well, yeah, so one of that was a block punt return for a touchdown as well. So I wouldn't count that. A lot of that happened in the second half when I think it was 21-3, and then ironically went to 28-30 at some point in the game. But then the Rams, I think, just kind of got lackadaisical. And like Cooper Kupp had a fumble. I think
he had two.
I think he had two.
I think he had one, and then Falcons. No. Sorry, he had one. He had two. One was recovered by the Rams. The other one was an actual turnover.
Yeah. So, like, potentially, like the Falcons defense. I'm trying to. I actually didn't watch. I had to watch the highlights and was watching on the ESPN gameplay. But I just think losing Trent Williams, I mean, that's just a huge deal for that offense. And,
it is, yeah.
And they were not able to move the ball. And so I'm just going to be leaning. I'm just going to be leaning towards the Rams on this one.
So part of the reason why that was such a big deal, though, was the Broncos took Bradley Chubb and then put him right over the replacement left tackle. And I don't think the Rams really be able to do that. They might be able to overload that side and get one-on-one matchups, but they're not going to be able to put a Bradley Chubb out there over that left tackle. Not to say that it's not a big injury, but also another thing, the Rams secondary is not good. Jalen Ramsey has statistically been one of the worst cornerbacks this season.
Awful. He's been awful.
Through the first two games, he gave up over 200 yards, 3 touchdowns, and also had like a passer rating of 122.6, like Adam.
Yeah.
When thrown at Jalen Ramsey. Now in this game, he's going to have to cover either Deebo Samuel or Brandon Ayuk. George Kittle did come back against the Broncos, so he will also be a threat. And frankly, Nick Bosa, Fred Warner, and that front seven look really good. And that Rams offensive line has not been the best. So
you sound like you're picking the 49ers to win.
Well, all I'm saying is that this is not an easy game for the Rams. It's also a division matchup, which is a crapshoot whenever. So
and it's in San Francisco as well. They just came off a tough loss. A game they should have won, just with the way how it looked. So I'll say, are they 2-1? Is San Francisco 2-1?
No, they're 1-2, I think.
Who did they? Oh no, who else did they lose to? I think they are 2-1.
No, they lost to the Bears week 1 in that monsoon game, And then they beat
the Seahawks.
The Seahawks, yeah.
Yeah. So they're 1-2. Okay, yeah, you're right. So, it's going to be. Well, shoot, man. I might have to add that to my list. That to my list. I'm going to watch the game. I got nothing else to do. I got nothing else to do on Monday night besides watch Below Deck with my wife. Great show, by the way. You guys should watch that stuff.
And Child.
I said that I liked the show.
It is an interesting show.
I need to close. No, she said I have nothing better to do. Monday Night Football's on. I definitely have something better to do. But I do like the show. I do like the show. Actually, it is recorded, yeah. So, bravo if you ever want to sponsor. I'll gladly promote your guys' show on this football channel, I'm sure.
Yeah.
But, man, you gave a lot of good points. I need to go back and look at because the 49ers, of course, this is last year over year, totally different, but they beat the Rams twice last year in the regular season. Should have beaten them in the playoffs to move on to the Super Bowl, but that was such a close game. And it being in San Francisco, it's going to be very interesting. And actually, too, if I remember correctly, it was about this time when the Rams and 49ers played, and the Rams were struggling. And the 49ers just
trounced them,
right? Oh, yeah, just absolutely trounced them. I would need to go back and look at the score, but I don't even think it was close. I think it was like 31-10 or something like that. So you might have actually changed my mind. I'm going to have to think about this some more. But as of now, I'm going to stick with the Rams. I'll let you know personally. But I will also make a tweet as well for all of our fans on any adjustments, and I'll send out a tweet before the Sunday 1 o'clock Eastern, 12 o'clock Central time games on what Ryan and my final picks will be, so you guys can see this is what is happening. We'll go from there. But week 4, another tough week. Right. As of right now, I've had a little bit better season so far, but definitely I've had a little bit more luck than you. Like, for example,
Miami.
It was the
Baltimore.
first. Well, Miami, Baltimore. But so for example, the Detroit game was the first game where we had different picks where my team should have won and it didn't work out. But you have had multiple games like that where it was the team you picked should have won and I picked different. I think Tennessee, New York Giants in week 1. I'm pretty sure you had the Titans picked to win, and I had the Giants, and that was one like Titans missed a 40-yard field goal. Oh no, you had the Giants to win the game. What was the other one? In week 1, I'm trying to remember. We didn't have it as organized then. 49ers Bears was one, but it was just an absolute monsoon, which totally helped out the Bears. So, but up to this point, though, I have won the past 3 weeks against 3 of us. So I'm 3-0, and I have a 30-17-1 record. Now we have 1, 2, 3, 4 games that we have different picks for right now. As of now, I will most likely change a pick. I don't know which way it'll be. Maybe we'll only have 3 picks the same or less. Strategically, I should just make the same picks as you if I want to win this thing.
That would be boring. Not the purpose.
That'd be boring. That's not how you get any viewerships here. So, but speaking of viewers, do we have any comments here before we head out?
Let's see. We don't have any real questions. If you guys are watching, go ahead and leave a question down below, and we will do our best to answer it. Bosa is out. Yeah, Joey Bosa got injured in the
I think the third quarter.
Yeah, third quarter.
Or is that Rashawn Slater? They got decimated. I mean, losing Rashawn Slater and then Joey Bosa. I mean, that is a huge loss for both on both sides of the ball.
They fear that he tore his groin, so he is expected to miss some significant time with a torn groin.
Should I
just absolutely decimated. I mean, in the trenches, their best player on each side of the ball is out.
Yeah. Well, and think about it too. As soon as Rashawn Slater showed up as well offensively, Chargers before that they had the worst offensive line in the league. When he came, and they added some other piece, like they had some other pieces. Right? I think Corey Linsley was one of them, one of the other pieces that they added. But now both of those guys are out, and we remember what that offense was like before when they had no offensive line whatsoever. And now both those guys are out. Rashawn Slater out with torn left bicep. Pretty sure maybe it was torn right bicep. But yeah, that's a huge loss for the Chargers. And so that's what going back to that game briefly here. But you hear all that, and you're like, now they're going on the road to Houston, a team that has some potential for an upset. You know, they're not like the Texans aren't a joke. They're not a joke.
No.
What's so funny?
Raven 187 says, calling it now. Tampa game is going to be moved to Gillette Stadium. I would love that. That would be hilarious. Tom Brady running out of the Patriots tunnel in a Buccaneers uniform. That'd be hilarious.
Is he? Yeah, he has been back, right? Yeah,
he played there last year.
Oh,
actually, a game the Patriots should have won.
Well, they should not have won. I think the Buccaneers played awful, and if I'm remembering correctly. But then they.
I don't think the Buccaneers played
the Patriots
that bad. They had 3 sacks, a few 3-and-outs. The Patriots defense actually looked good in that game. Patriots just missed 2 field goals in that game, and that was the deciding factor pretty much. So also they should have gone for it was 4th and 2. They should have gone for it on their final drive.
Oh yeah, but they kicked a 60-yarder or something.
Yeah, they kicked a 56-yarder instead.
Yeah. So
I think if you guys don't have any other questions, I think we're going to call it here. We appreciate all of you guys tuning in to watch us just talk about football and have a good time. If you guys have not already, please go ahead and like and subscribe. We go live every Monday and Tuesday at around 9 p.m. Eastern, give or take 30 minutes or so. So hit that bell notification so we can notify you guys every time we go live. Thank you for tuning in, and we will talk with you guys next time.